Video game design is the intentional creation of specific experiences in games. These experiences can be anything. Let me highlight a couple of examples. Games can be a source of intense feelings of mastery when you overcome a challenge. This can be based on a single-player game such as a Souls-like for example, or a competitive online game such as League of Legends. The game might provide the player with a creative sandbox where the player experiences freedom to express themselves creatively. Minecraft is a great example of one of these sandbox experiences where the players create the fun themselves. Games can provide the immersive experience of living as another character or in another time or another place. Red Dead Redemption 2 provides an excellent fantasy of being an outcast or an outlaw in the Old West. Games can evoke raw emotions through visuals and music. Gris creates these emotions by being an art museum in the form of a game, for example. I could continue with these examples for hours. The point is that every game is unique, and the experiences they provide are very different from each other. Game design is the discipline that figures out how to craft these experiences. The way League of Legends is designed is very different from the way Gris is designed, because the games are trying to do drastically different things. The design process can be quite similar though, but the development and end goal are very different. The design process usually starts with a desire to fulfill a purpose or to solve a problem. The first step in design is to define a goal, to understand what you're trying to achieve. The second step is to create concepts and ideas and evaluate them. Figure out which concepts, ideas and systems are best suited to achieve that goal. The third step is to implement these concepts, ideas and systems in detail. This is how design works, from physical objects like cars and computers to experience-based products such as stories and games. These three steps are the core of design. The best way to understand what concept design and detail design might be is to use an example. Seeing as Pong is the simplest game I can think of, I will use that. The concept design of Pong is very simple. You have a ball that bounces between two rectangles that can move up and down, controlled either by a player or an AI. The ball can hit a wall on the top and bottom side of the level and continue bouncing. If a rectangle misses the ball, the other player scores some points or wins the game. The detail design implements this concept in an engine. In this case, I've used Godot to create this example. And let's take a look at what the detail design includes for such a simple game. The detail design of Pong includes the creation of assets. That means things like the visuals, like the rectangles and the ball. In this case, I've used tools inside the engine to do this, but usually this is done in a separate software. Audio such as music and sound effects would also be classified as assets, even though I have not used any of them in this example. The detail design includes placement of these assets. How wide is the level? How close to the center are the rectangles placed? Detail design is also programming and scripting, handling the input from a keyboard in this case to move the rectangles and a logic that moves the ball. Detail design is also balancing. How fast should the ball be moving and how quickly should the rectangles move? All of these things are examples of detail design. These activities are done in basically every game, but detail design can get very complicated and can cover a lot more than these simple examples. The important part is that the detail design implements the concept design as intended and work towards the purpose of the game. The goal of Pong is simply to pass time, more or less. When developing very simple games like this, you don't need to consider design, you just feel if the game is good or bad when you test it. But when games get more complex and with a lot more people involved, understanding what the game is trying to do is absolutely essential. I want to take a look at a couple of examples, Red Dead Redemption 2 and Uncharted 4. Red Dead Redemption 2 is incredibly good at creating an immersive fantasy of living as an outlaw at the end of the Wild West. I would define that as the purpose of the game, or experience. Every other experience is crafted on this premise or experience. There is nothing in Red Dead Redemption 2 that challenges or works against this experience or purpose. Everything in the game, from the incredible cities, the wonderful nature, the great sound design, the phenomenal stories, the fantastic characters, the shooting, the hunting, the fishing, and so forth, all contribute to this immersive fantasy of living as an outlaw at the end of the Wild West. There is no friction in the game, nothing that brings you out of the experience. This goal or purpose is what everything in the game works towards, and is one of the large reasons Red Dead Redemption 2 is good as a video game. On the flip side, we have a game like Uncharted 4, which does not know what it wants to do. The gameplay creates the fantasy of being a lethal action hero. The cutscenes and dialogue is on the other hand a story about an innocent treasure hunter, which I consider to be the main purpose of the game or the main experience the game targets. The problem with Uncharted 4 is that the lethal action hero fantasy is interfering with this character-driven story. These two experiences do not work together, and the gameplay actively hurts the story. I don't know why the developer chose to have a large focus on both of these experiences at the same time. It might be because of expectations of what an Uncharted game should be. They might not have considered the story that the gameplay actually tells, causing the game to tell two different but conflicting stories at the same time. It doesn't really matter. The result is the same, which is a lot of friction that pulls the player in different directions, which pulls them out of the game experience as a whole. This friction could be fixed by making character-driven stories the main focus of the game. The gameplay would change slightly to accommodate this focus. Lethal takedowns in stealth could be turned non-lethal. A small change, but one with massive implications for the story. Video game design is the intentional creation of specific experiences in games. That is the sentence I started this video with. Said in other words, game design is how games are created. Why are certain game elements included? Why is the story told in the way it is? Why is the balance of the game like it is? These are typical questions you can ask in game design. Game design is complex, and it can be a lot of different things. It can be hard to get a good grasp on what game design is, but I hope that you understand more what game design is now compared to when you started this video. An obvious question at this point is, why is game design important? Why care about it? And that depends on who you are. If you are a game developer, it is crucial to understand what you are creating. What is the point of your game? What are you trying to accomplish with it? When you know that, you can ask yourself questions like, does this element help to accomplish what I want? If it does it have any side effects that would detract from the experience in a way that might not be obvious? Questions like these are very valuable when developing games, as they help avoid stupid mistakes that are obvious in hindsight. Game design is also very useful for game journalists and for anyone that reviews or talks about video games. By being able to understand what a game is trying to do, it is easier to spot which elements are the key components to a game, which makes it easier to discuss things in a more objective manner, instead of I like this or I don't like this, and turn every game discussion into a matter of subjective preference. Being able to point at a specific part in a game and explain why you think this is bad or this is good is extraordinarily useful in conveying information about a game. Personally, I enjoy figuring out how games work. I like knowing why I like the games I like and why I don't like the games I dislike. I love talking about how games work and what makes them tick, which is the reason this channel exists in the first place. I want to talk about how games work in terms of design, and you might be similar in a desire to understand games and how they work. I hope you got something out of this video, and please leave a comment if you have any questions. I read everything, even if I don't respond to everything. Stick around the channel for game design analysis of games I've played. Thank you for watching.